clairvoyance or telepathic contact either.
I'm sorry. I don't believe in any of those things.
Well, that's all right. I don't either. But there are some things we do, standard procedure.
If everything you're doing is bad, I want you to know this.
Some kind of a ray or a mind control device because he forced me to follow him to his room. And that's where he told me about
I do. There's one more thing. I had written down that we can move on. Specifically about Sigourney Weaver's character, and also about Sigourney Weaver like as an actress. Just something that I've been thinking about once I knew we were going to do this video. So, just going back to her, I guess her breakout role was Alien in 1979. So 5 years before Ghostbusters came out, she was a megastar from that movie. I think, especially with the male viewership, who maybe until that time didn't really have a female heroine that was like as believable and likable as Ripley, the character Ripley was in Aliens. I think a lot of men, sci-fi like nerd men like us or like me, we loved the character of Ripley. And then in Aliens came out, she was even more awesome in that, but she's like the only one that survived in the first Alien movie. She obviously could hold her own against any threat, against a freaking alien. It established her as just a badass.
Come on, anybody saying nothing.
I'm thinking.
Badass. And then Sigourney Weaver comes off of that 5 years later and does Ghostbusters. And, she's like at that point, just as far as I'm concerned, a heroine, just an absolute heroine badass in Hollywood, and could have followed that up, with another role like Ripley, just like independent girl power kind of role like that. But she went into the role of Dana Barrett, who eventually becomes a damsel in distress in that movie. Which Alien, she was such an opposite of a damsel in distress, stereotype, female actress in a movie. But she did it in Ghostbusters, and I wonder if it's like what was going through her mind when she read the role. Like, was that a consideration for her? Like, oh, I don't want to go and do this damsel in distress thing, but wait, I've already done the Aliens thing where I was a badass. I'm good with it. I'll play the damsel in distress. But I wonder if Sigourney's like, I want you to also make me this successful New York musician. Like, I want my character to be somebody really respectable, somebody that obviously
very independent.
Very independent, lives by herself in freaking Central Park West, so obviously makes a lot of money. Anybody who's in a professional orchestra is, a capable human being. So I wonder if Sigourney's like, okay, I'll play Dana Barrett, this chick who gets rescued at the end, but I want you to make me this amazing woman in real life in my character as well.
That's interesting. I don't know if the character was written as a musician, because in a lot of ways you could say, yes, she gets rescued at the end, but she's kind of not a damsel in distress because she's not helpless. She goes and seeks help.
True.
She's not sitting there screaming, help me, help. She goes and seeks help. She seeks professional help from scientists,
And this voice said, Zool. And then I slammed the refrigerator door and I left. That was 2 days ago, and I haven't been back to my apartment.
Generally, you don't see that kind of behavior in a major appliance. What do you think it was?
Well, if I knew what it was, I wouldn't be here.
I don't know. I don't think I quite saw her as a damsel in distress in a traditional sense, because she is independent. She makes her own living. She's as accomplished a human being as you get. If you're playing for a New York orchestra like that,
exactly,
she says, that guy's one of the finest musicians in the world. She's one of the finest musicians in the world.
And like Bateman said, she was the best in her row. He could hear her.
Maybe she was the first chair cello. Cellist in the New York. She's one of the best musicians in the world, and something happened where she doesn't know what this is. She had to go seek help. This isn't just a mugger. This is a demon in her fridge. So she sought help,
Yeah.
And then eventually, something beyond her control, what's she gonna do? If I'm Sigourney Weaver, she probably looked at this as, this is a comedy. It's got sci-fi elements, but we're not in another planet. I'm not in a spaceship, Yeah, I get possessed, which that's more of a demonic, paranormal versus a sci-fi thing. And she's probably just thinking, I think she probably just thought, this is gonna be funny.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of this independent woman and, accomplished musician, and all of a sudden this threat is after her. And then once she gets possessed, she kind of gets to go over the top with this. I don't even know what to call that. When she's in that weird orange flowing robe and she tries to seduce Bankman.
Yeah.
What are we doing today, Zool?
We must prepare for the coming of Gozer,
Gozer, huh?
the Destructor.
She probably just thought that was fun. Honestly.
Great point. And I don't like Sigourney Weaver definitely doesn't strike me as somebody that would be like above going from Aliens and doing something totally different. I'm not saying that at all, because I really respect her. She's probably one of my favorite female actresses, just because the movies she's been in were so great, and she was so great in all of them. She was just so great in all of them.
Yeah, she's really never.
I'm not saying she'd say, I don't want to do this damsel in distress thing. I'm wondering if people were saying, if people were coming and saying, like, she'd been hearing for 5 years that she was just this badass from Aliens, and if she felt like she had to keep doing that, type of thing.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. I think you're right. I think she probably just read the script and realized how just quirky and how she went from being like, this awesome, amazing character to just being totally out of her league and being freaking possessed by a demon. She probably saw that and said, hey, I got to do this, right?
Come on. I want to talk to Dana. Dana, just relax. Come on. Dana. Can I talk to Dana?
There is no Dana, only Zool.
What a lovely singing voice you must have.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that minor complaint about Ghostbusters is that Gozer is an off-screen threat. Obviously, you got the terror dogs or whatever who are, present, and then essentially Walter Peck is the villain of the second act.
Second act, yeah.
That's going in Ghostbusters 2. That's a thing that was a little bit better. Was that I can't even think. My brain just shut off. The guy in the painting.
Vigo, yeah.
Vigo
Carpathia, I guess, right?
Vigo, the Carpathian.
Yeah.
He was present pretty early on.
Uh-huh.
You knew right from the start he was the villain. He was what they were fighting against. Even though the slime was stupid, and the whole metaphor of the anger of New York, and that was dumb. I like that. Yeah. I like that Vigo was right at the front of it. You knew this was the guy that was going to be the problem and the threat, and you saw him. And I kind of like the idea of his spirit was in this painting, and it was just hiding in a basement, and then he came to life and just possessed Janos. I kind of like that idea.
Listen to me.
What?
I, Vigo, the scourge of Carpathia, the sorrow of Moldavia, command you.
Oh, command me, Lord.
Now, the slime was stupid, and the idea of the anger of the city,
yeah,
it didn't come across. There was to the very beginning of the movie, there was 2 or 3 people arguing on the street, and then the very end of the movie, Ray's all the anger and the hate, Winston, all the anger and the hate and bad vibes of the city has led to this slime. Yeah. They never really showed that. It was just kind of an implied New York is miserable. People are mean to each other, and everybody knows that.
Here, you take this. You can have this ticket and keep it. I'm not paying that ticket. You stop that car.
Jesus! George, would you watch where you're going? All right, don't be interested, fine.
You want to hear it from me, right? Then I want you to go downstairs to the cellar and check the water lines of the boiler, check the bubble. All right? I want to do that today, all right? Could you do that?
Greg, do you mind giving me a hand with these?
I wish they would have spent more time. Like, they could have had a montage of rude New Yorkers and mean New Yorkers, and that could have been like, then you could have showed the slime like building and building and building. That's what they should have done. But I don't know if they cared enough to do that in the second movie.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I guess it's like the mayor's quote, not to go back to the first film, but where he says being miserable and treating each other like dirt is every New Yorker's God-given right. You know, he says that in the first movie. The mayor of New York says this. And then, to your point, it goes into the second movie, and it's kind of showing that, but to the extent of where it's powering all the slime and stuff. Yeah, the slime thing is. I feel like they thought about the whole covering the Statue of Liberty in something and animating the Statue of Liberty to make this big scene. Maybe the way they did that was they went back. The way they made that scene happen is they said, "Oh well, how are we going to do this? Let's make this slime that." Has certain results when it, you know, gets sprayed on something, or like there's our Statue of Liberty scene right there. So I wonder if it was almost written back. They knew they wanted to do something with like Lady Liberty, because you know those movies showcase New York to such an extent. I remember watching those as a kid. Always like the first one always made me want to go and see all these places in New York, like the firehouse, and that stuff.
The library.
It made New York City look so cool and so realistic. Absolutely. So I find myself wondering now, so was the slime always there in like small quantities? Because if it was just in the sewer, how do they not know it was down there for the last 50 years of, 100 years ago when they built the sewers in New York City? Or are we meant to believe that the slime was undetectable until it got so bad and started bubbling up?
Well, it was in the pneumatic transit system tunnel, which was unused.
Oh,
okay. That was below everything. So I presumed that, you know, from the previous few decades of New Yorkers' hatred, it had been building and building, and then that, or the painting made it the slime. I don't know if Vigo made the slime come to life. I don't know.
I mean, even if it's unused, like, does nobody go down there and like check for cracks in the foundation of the city and stuff? You know, like, why would they not have seen this slime?
Well, I think the way they showed it is that was below everything, the pneumatic train, and it was also. I actually looked this up. It was a real system that used a pneumatic, whatever, you know, essentially air pushing to power these, but it only went a few blocks. I remember they had this big ceremony. I read they had this big ceremony where, like, some of New Yorkers' finest went to ride the pneumatic train system. And it went like 2 blocks. So it was like, what's the point? So it didn't last very long.
Okay.
So then the subways came in after that. So I think it was that, if, you know, we're trying to put logic to a slime movie.
That's what we're here for.
If the slime was there, it was in this kind of forgotten corridor under the city. So that's why nobody found it.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, I did. Like I said, I did like the introduction of Vigo early on in the movie, and of course, Janos. Janos is absolutely the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Every word out of his mouth makes me laugh.
Well, could I say goodbye? You know, maybe bring you to a brunch today.
Well, I can't today. I have an appointment. In fact, I better go.
I don't understand this. You know, every day I say, well, can you do something? You say, no, I can't do something. You know, do I have a bad breath or something?
Of course not.
All right. Well, I give you a rain check.
Every word out of his mouth makes me laugh. Everything he did. I don't think he was written as some. He was probably written as like John, and he just came and did his accent. They're like, all right, we're just gonna just do the accent. We'll name you Janos. And got everything. What's that? Peter McNichol? That's his name, right?
You tell me.
The actor. I think it's Peter McNichol's his name. Completely stole the movie. And it was the best part of the movie.
I mean, the whole slime thing, like you said, was dumb. But my favorite thing, my main reason that I'm glad the slime was in the movie is because we got that hilarious exchange between him and Ray at the end, where they tell each other, "I love you too." It's so
He goes,
funny.
"Oh yeah," he goes, "Oh yeah."
I love you too.
But again, it wouldn't be so.
Let me tell you something. I love you. Oh, I love you too.
Will come from behind. Hey.
You all right?
Why are my drippings with goo?
You had a violent, prolonged, transformative psychic episode.
Sorry we had to hose you there, but you were kind of out of control. Hey, man, let me tell you something. I love you.
Yes?
Yeah.
Well, I love you too.
It's like they were drunk, basically.
Yeah, they were just like happy drunk.
Yeah, that was fine. I think here's one of the problems with the movie. Even though, like you, I like the movie. I watch it. If it's on, I'm gonna watch it. But I think the main issue with it for me is it's kind of like when they redid Indiana Jones. What was it, Crystal Skull? And it was just kind of a watered down. Nobody was getting killed. It felt soft. Ghostbusters 2 felt kind of soft.
Yeah.
It felt more kid friendly. I don't know if it's because the cartoon had come out. Even though the first movie wasn't gory or vulgar or violent, there was a slight edge to it.
I think you hit the nail on the head with the cartoon, because obviously that opened up. A lot of parents probably didn't take their kids to see Ghostbusters in the movie. I think it was PG. You know, some kids weren't going to see
I thought it was PG-13.
PG. Well, that depends.
Oh, it didn't exist. It didn't exist back then.
It started in 1984 with Temple of Doom. So if Temple of Doom came out before, then maybe it existed. I'm not sure. It was the same year, but
yeah.
Right. So whatever rating it was, my point is, like, I think a lot more kids got permission to opportunity to watch the cartoon than watch the original movie. So the market, like the kids market, was huge at that time. You know, by the time the second movie came out, because that was 5 years after the first one. It's like 84 and 89. So that whole time there was fandom building over the whole real Ghostbusters cartoon, which I know I definitely watched as a kid too. That they made that second movie, like, man, there's a lot more kids who are going to be watching this time around. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think so. And that also probably gave the studio more of a push to, like, we got to make this movie. It's so popular right now with the kid. Like, we got to do it. Even the music is softer. It's more kiddie. It almost seems like it's like the music was written for a kid's show. You know, like the instrumentation and the melodies were very preschool, you know, like, and the language was really, you know, was softer. Again, not that the first one was vulgar, but it felt more real. The second one felt more like the rough edges had been sanded off.
That's a good point about the score, because the score in the second one I never really paid that much attention to. I guess it's still Elmer Bernstein, but it is a little bit less, like, intense, I guess.
I don't know if it was Elmer Bernstein.
I don't know. I mean, that could be why it's so different. It's not him, but yeah, that's a good point. It was the whole movie, the music, all that stuff had less of an edge. It definitely had less of a horror movie. I mean, the first one, I guess there's horror aspects to it, just because it was intentionally trying to be a little bit scary in certain spots with the crazy, like, demon dogs. The second one didn't really have anything like that. It was a guy in a painting and some slime, you know. And then Slimer, who by that time, Slimer, I think, did he live with? Was he there like pet ghost in the movie, Slimer?
Yeah, I think they cut out a lot of stuff. There was a lot of scenes with Louis Tully and Slimer where they were like had some kind of budding friendship or something. But again, because he was in the cartoon more as a character. He was barely in the first movie.
Right. The cartoon is what made Slimer their pet, basically.
Okay, buddy boy, I got you scoped.
we're two people who actually like Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah.
But not a whole lot of people really like it.
I've noticed that too.
I just wish they had kept those edges to it. It was just a little too kid friendly, like you said, and even though the premise was silly, they could have found a way to make it work if they had pushed a little more, hardened it a little more, and kept some of that original balance. This didn't have that balance of the comedy, the dry comedy, and the legitimate, horror elements to it. Because the first one, I mean, think of the first one, the very first scene with the librarian. That's a scary scene. I mean, obviously it's not scary like The Exorcist, but that's a tense, scary scene with her getting followed by a ghost or whatever.
Yeah.
The terror dog, when Dana gets possessed, that is scary. I still get a little like, oh, I don't want my kids to watch that. That's scary. There's nothing like that in the second.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised when you said Stay Puft was what scared you as a kid, because that whole dog scene was what scared me, definitely.
I don't know. The second movie doesn't have any of that. It's got a woman with a fur coat that comes to life and starts barking down the street.
Yeah.
It's just
I remember
silly.
that now.
Yeah, so they didn't have the balance like the first movie, for sure. But again, I still watch it. I still like it.
Yeah, all the stuff. My favorite, Venkman again, I think is the best part of it. Like the part where Dana lives in another apartment and she's got Oscar now. She's got her son now. All the interaction with her and Oscar and Venkman and stuff was all great in that movie.
I did like that stuff. Yeah.
And that's where the music starts to really soften too, because I think and it's very family friendly stuff. He's just kidding around with the baby and all that stuff. It's definitely, but I still love those scenes though, because it's Bill Murray. They're still really funny. Yeah. And there's still little stuff for grown-ups where he bounces on the bed and he's like, hi, he does this little corny thing, kind of flirting with Dana still a little bit.
Yeah.
That, that kind of stuff is still in there, the adult humor. I enjoy that piece.
And of course we can't forget, even though I said Janos is my favorite part, number 2 is Louis Tully. They made him a lot funnier. He was funny in the first movie, but he was funny because he was a nerd.
Right.
Like, and his kind of stalkerish behavior of Dana was funny.
Yes.
Yeah, every time he knew she was. But the second movie, I found him. He was hilarious.
Well, now, hang on now. Do you maybe want to? Oh no. Do you want to have something to eat with me?
Yeah.
Obviously we've said his lines a million times where he's in the apartment with Janine, and she's for some reason trying to hook up with Louis.
Well, for some reason you say that, but she was all over Egon in the first one, so she likes like I don't know, not that Louis Tully's a nerd, but maybe she just like nerdy looking dudes, I guess.
Yeah, he was an accountant, and then he was a CPA, and then he had a guy's tax law, whatever. So yeah, she liked those nerdy types. So that makes sense. Yeah. I think someone said that she was a different character in the second movie.
No, I agree with that. I do agree with that, because she's a whole lot more. I agree with that, because the first movie she was really saucy and just didn't take shit from anybody and was like smarted off to her bosses and said, "I've put better jobs in this."
Yeah,
she was that disgruntled New York sort of.
Very New York
assistant type, employee in a big city, and she's like, she didn't really care if she had kept the job or not, because she didn't know if the business was going to survive or not.
Janine, any calls?
No.
Any messages?
No.
Any customers?
No, Dr. Venkman.
It's a good job, isn't it?
And in the second movie, she had the different hair, and she was just like this normal girl next door that babysat Dana's son, and was quirky. Yeah. So I think she was written very differently and played very differently.
The only thing I can say is that maybe she kind of progressed with the decade, maybe. Like, let's say she was in her late 20s in the first well, now she's in her, maybe she's gotten a little bit older, and now she's loosened up a little bit, or, and she's got more of an 80s vibe versus, 84. Yeah, she's still kind of a frumpy late 70s look. And then she's lived through the 80s. Maybe she lived through the highs of the Ghostbusters, and she was kind of maybe a minor celebrity, and she got a cool new look and cool new hair, and then everything went to shit. And now then she was back at another shitty job, and then the Ghostbusters called her back. She's happy to be back with the Ghostbusters.
Oh, so the whole job thing, I didn't realize that. She wasn't their secretary anymore in the second movie. Well, they went out of business. At the beginning of the second movie, they split up. I just got to try to read the plot of that movie a little bit better.
Yeah, she was back. She remembered because she answered the phone. She said, "Yes, they're back. The Ghostbusters."
Right. Well, at the beginning of the film, I think Winston and Ray were like,
doing birthday parties.
The birthday parties. The Ghostbusters, because they cleaned up the city. There's no more ghosts, so they didn't have anything to do.
Well, they got sued by everybody.
Because they were in court for all tearing up the street and all that. Right.
They had a judicial estrangement order, as Louis Tully said. That blue thing I got from her. They could be exposing themselves. You don't want us exposing ourselves.
You look fantastic in this.
I was born to wear this stuff.
I got a little bit of an embarrassing thing to talk about here in regards to the 2016 Ghostbusters, the Melissa McCarthy, whatever year that came out.
2016, yeah.
I think I emailed you after I saw it, and I said that I liked it.
You did.
And you did. Email me later and said, "This movie is terrible." You said, "I hate this movie and it's terrible." And then I don't know why I said I liked it. And then when I went back and watched it, whenever it came back on, I was like, why did I say I liked this movie? I don't know what I was thinking.
I do. I think I do. I think it's because the main four Ghostbusters actresses in that movie are all independently good performers. They're all independently fun. Kristen Wiig's the funniest woman that's ever been on SNL. I don't care who watches this. I think by a long shot.
I got no argument with that.
Yeah, she's the most talented female cast member I've ever seen. And Melissa McCarthy has had very funny moments in good movies and bad movies. Spy was pretty good. She's funny on SNL. And
did you ever see
Kate McKinnon everybody thinks Kate McKinnon is a good comedian, I think, in general, right? And then Leslie Jones, I personally think is funny. A lot of people are annoyed by her and don't think she's funny at all. I think she's actually funny in the Ghostbusters movies. The point is, I think you like the main actresses and maybe you enjoyed the individual little performances and weren't looking at the movie end to end as much as you did the second time you saw it.
You didn't disclose that the vehicle was going to be a hearse.
I'm sorry. My uncle owns a funeral home, not an Enterprise rent-a-car.
Hope you checked to see there wasn't a body in the back.
I don't really know.
You didn't check?
I mean, I was in a hurry. I checked to see if we had gas. That was more important.
I think I liked all those actresses, and I wanted to like the movie. I think that's what I went in I want to like this movie.
Yes.
I want this movie to be good because there was such a bunch of crap coming out beforehand. I usually don't pay attention to anything that happens before a movie.
Yeah.
With online people, I don't care about that, but it was hard to avoid, before this one, and I just wanted to like it, and I think there were a few little moments that were genuinely funny, and a few performance beats, not performances, but performance beats, that I liked, and I just oh, it's pretty good, and you went, no, it's not, and you burst my bubble, and I had to go watch it again. I was like, God, what was I thinking? It was not good.
I hate to be the bubble burster, especially if you got some enjoyment out of the movie, because like you, I wanted to like it too. And if you got any enjoyment at all, I'm not gonna clown you for it. I wish I could have gotten more enjoyment out of it and not so much displeasure out of it. But I agree, there was there was little funny moments in there. There were good little performances by a lot of the. I don't know what Kate McKinnon was thinking. I don't know what she was trying to go for. If she wasn't trying to be Egon, although she was the Egon equivalent in the movie.
Yeah.
But what was she doing? Like the jokes that she
She's
made.
I don't like a cartoon character. She was a cartoon character.
It's the least funny thing Kate McKinnon's ever done by a long shot. It's just like, what is she doing?
She could have played it dry, and that would have been funnier. You know, again, not that she had to play it like Egon, but you can play it dry without being, you know, the exact one-to-one comparison. But
you have done this before, right?
Ready. Aim. Fire! Oh, what?
And why were there jokes in the movie like the Chinese the food delivery gets made, and Miss McCarthy is saying, "There's one less meatball in my soup," or whatever she said. It's like, why are you saying this? It's not funny. It doesn't advance. It just kills time. You're just killing time with what you're saying.
Yeah, those are supposed to be like when Bill Murray did that cool stuff. It was about Venkman. It's like it's character stuff. It's not broad scene stuff. Like she's talking about a suit. That's got nothing to do with her character. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you can do little moments like that, but it's got to be about your character. That's what improv is. It's better when you're either making fun of yourself or you're adding little bits to your character instead of just looking around and that would be funny if I talked about that. It's not.
Exactly. Talking about missing meatball in the soup versus Venkman and Egon talking about, remember when you tried to drill your hole in your head? That's exactly what the character of Egon would make.
Character.
It's his character. He's so insane. It's such an insane, brainiac that he would try to do that for the sake of science.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of believe that about Egon. Also, it's funny because how ridiculous it is. That's a good joke. It's ridiculous and it's about the character.
Yes. So you can get away with that wacky improv stuff on stage when you're at Second City and you're just yelling stuff out and they're just winging it. You don't do it in a movie. Movies.
No, good point.
Yeah. Another thing that was stupid, because I was obviously a lot stupid, but at the end of the movie, they were all of a sudden like ninjas with their equipment. They're like doing all this. They were Ghostbuster ninjas. And the first movie, they didn't know what the hell they were doing. They destroyed everything. That made it funnier because they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, why is them doing ninjutsu at the end of the movie supposed to be funny? What's funny about that?
It's hard or almost impossible to capture an original idea that hits perfectly. Ghostbusters was a passion project idea from Dan Aykroyd, which got refined and perfected by all these other people. Star Wars was perfection because it was a passion. It was passion of George Lucas, perfected by all these people.
Right.
And no matter how good you want things to be with these things, it's just never going to be as good because you're leading from an idea, from the foundation of, all right, we need to remake this movie instead of speaking as somebody who kind of tries to come up with original ideas, tries to write original stories. You're just never going to get something as good as somebody, or like a person or a duo just sitting down or coming up with their own idea that they worked so hard for and they slaved for, and it's in their head. They're obsessed with it, versus a bunch of people in a room saying, we need to make money, find somebody who can write this, and hopefully it's good.
Cool, see ya. Hey guys, which one of these makes me look more like a doctor?
Who was on the phone?
The Stonebrook Theater. There's a goat on the loose.
I'm gonna load up the car.
Now is the season of evil.
Evil?
find me a child that I might live again.
Yes, a child. A child. A child? A child.